and I welcome all the participants and especially the paper presenters to this session. And since we are, running late as per our schedule, so what I would suggest is how many we have, I think, 4 or 5 presenters in this session.
Yes, ma'am, we have 5 presenters.
All of them are present.
Yes,
All the five, all the 5 participants are there. So what I would suggest, since we are behind schedule, so what we could do rather than the paper presenters presenting the reading out their entire paper, what I would suggest and what I would appreciate also, that if the paper presenters just make the important points of their presentation, put forward their argument, making the important points. Would that be okay with the presenters? Ankita, I think, is one of them.
Very good evening, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, good evening. So, would that be better, Ankita?
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
Anna, you all can just, put forward the main points of your paper, your argument, and then, we would just argue that out, discuss that out. So, I think it will be better put across. That is how we've been doing in conferences where we have more presentations than, have possible, physically possible. Also. The first participant, I think, is Vidya.
Yes, ma'am. I'm
Yeah.
Dr. Vidya Rao here.
Okay.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are. Welcome to have you
Thank
with us. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, as I was just suggesting, we would appreciate that you make the main points of your paper and put across your argument, right?
Yes, ma'am. I've made a short PPT, and I'll not read the PPT. I'll just
Okay,
present
you can share the
few
slides.
points.
Yeah,
Yes.
perfect.
All right.
Yeah.
Good
Thank you.
evening to the chairperson, Dr. Monica Sethi, and to all the participants present now. I thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity to interact with the scholars from all over the world. In a moment, I'll just share my PPT. The title is Stereotypical Images of Women, a rereading of Indian folk tales.
Yeah.
Every society has a set of folk tales which give cultural, sociological, and moral validity and meaning to it. They are a community's voice, a symbolic representation, vital for its existence and continuity of a vibrant and radiant culture. They shape thought process, mold the young minds, and generate interests in the local as well as national ideologies. Indian folk tales, real versus unreal. My main focus of the Indian folk tales are Panchatantra, Puranas, Jataka tales, Hitopadesha, Katha Sagar.
Sorry, Dr. Vidya, just a moment. On which page is your abstract in the booklet? You have no idea. Okay, if you don't know.
I haven't.
It's okay. Please continue.
Okay. Sorry. The focus is on Katha Sagar Sarita, which are etched in the vivid imagination of children and adults too. Folk tales are the unwritten or verbal literature, performing or oral communicative tools for a society. They conjure up various emotions and carry the listeners to a dreamland and to imaginary vistas. The characters are used to educate, warn, enlighten, ridicule, and criticize someone. This is an image of the popular folk tales, the Jataka tales, the Panchatantra, and the Hitopadesha. The focus of my research is on the patriarchal dominance in the Indian folk tales. Each generation will accept or question some folk tales with the changing times and needs. Folk tales too, like the constantly evolving and changing society, adapt to newer and challenging times. However, unfortunately, gender beliefs, attitudes, and expectations portrayed in these tales have remained stereotypical. Women in binary images, folktales, as they are narrated regularly to small children, reiterate certain truths about gender relations, which may have a tainted outlook and impact our attitudes, beliefs, ideologies, and thought process. According to Anuradha Sharma, in the Panchatantra, women are specifically depicted as ignorant, speechless, dumb, as well as conspirators seducing and conspiring to do something wrong. They are frail, ignorant, weak, and look haggard. Portrayal. Now I come down to the portrayal of women in different works. Portrayal of women in the Puranas. According to the creation myth, all of us know, according to the Hindu mythology, that Lord Brahma created man, and then from his thumb he created a woman. It's a very demeaning and an insulting thing to, in fact, teach young children and portray this kind of a subordinate and inferior image of women from the birth itself. How far is it justifiable to accept and propagate such a primeval myth? It carries an inferior image and even probably negates and questions the existence of women. Such stories are part of the daily narratives, which forms the core of Hindu beliefs and ideology. This is the story of Nala Damayanti, where where Nala is, where Damayanti is begging Lord Yama to give back the husband's life. Portrayal of women in Panchatantra. The world of Panchatantra is predominantly a male domain. There are stories where women play neither any major or positive roles. Adultery, cunningness of women, evil, selfish are the kind of images portrayed in this. According to Pandit Vishnu Sharma, who is the composer in Sanskrit, he says that if you need to know a woman, that what are the characteristics? These are some of them: impurity and heartless scorn, untruth and folly, reckless at heart, excessive greediness and deceit are the kinds of traits he describes in a woman. The popular stories which are etched in our memories since our childhood and which we keep on narrating generation after generation are the stories like the monkey and the crocodile, mongoose and the pandit's wife, where the pandit's wife is supposed to be very dumb because without verifying, she kills the mongoose, thinking that the mongoose has eaten up the child. Other important story is an ass without ears and heart. The female characters in the Panchatantra are evil, crafty, dumb, silly, and conniving for selfish purposes. Now I come to the women in Jataka tales. These are stories from the various births of Buddha, depicting in human and animal forms. They highlight a virtuous and intelligent way of living. Few stories portray women and show them as characters with an identity. Women are seen as obstacles to men's progress on the spiritual path. This is an image that I've taken signifying the image of the Jataka tales. Portrayal of women in Hitopadesha. Hitopadesha, the name itself suggests that Hita means welfare and benefit, and Upadesh means counsel and advice. Narayan Pandit somehow seems to re-emphasize Manu's code of conduct, where in most of his stories where he says that the father protects a girl in maidenhood, the husband in youth and the son in old age, and a woman should never be given importance. And he cites some of the reasons as to why women seem to lose their path because they if they are given too much of importance, too much of independence and chatter with men. These are some of the ways in which women tend to lose their character. This is an image of Hitopadesha written in Sanskrit. The main thrust of my paper is on the rereading of the Indian folk tales. And why should we be rereading? Because there is a need to re-examine a change. We need to, as the perpetuators of education, of English reading and mother tongue languages, we need to bring about a lot of change in our society for the coming generations. And that is why the thrust of this paper, where we need to reread and re-examine the Indian folktales with better, newer and fresher perspectives. I'm sure that we will always have the change for the good, and the contemporary stories and publishers have attempted to focus on girls as protagonists and depiction of women, their appearance. They are no longer haggard and old and dressed in rags. The behavior, societal expectations, positions, roles in family, and their importance in this society. All of these have now been the thrust of the newer breed of writers. Fortunately for us who have been in this teaching and learning and narrating profession, publishers like NBT, CBT, Katha, Zuban, Pratham, Scholastic and Karadi Tales have shifted their focus on gender-sensitive themes and positive portrayal. If you remember, I started with the first slide which said that folk tales are a mirror on the wall, and the last concluding slide of my presentation is reflection of the mirror of the folk tales. That is, now we have a reflection which is clear and better and not very hazy or foggy. So we have conscious efforts made by writers like Kavita Mandana, Swapna Datta, Sanjay Singh Rathore, Rebecca Mandari to shift to new paradigms of gender sensitivity. Traditional stories depict women in biased and stereotypical roles. Newer stories portray them in rather liberal roles. I want to conclude my presentation with a hope for more positive and neutral portrayals of women for children's books in India, and which we will no longer perpetuate and reiterate the male chauvinistic traits which are considered to be the standard norms. And we need to make efforts to change and improvise the stories which will then be handed down from generation to generation. And this is my last slide, where all of us are storytellers as teachers of English and mother tongue. I feel that the best way to teach people is by telling a story, whether it is a folk tale, a newer generation folk tale, or a newer one. But we ourselves should be sensitive so that we make our children and the readers and the audiences better and positive. Thank you very much. Ma'am, I can't hear you.
Sorry, I needed to unmute myself. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, I was congratulating you on a wonderful presentation. Very interesting. And, these are things we need to relook at, rethink, because all our folk literature, traditional mythological literature, that was written by men. So, they have a gender bias in them. And I find it so interesting how through the ages, through the generations, these images have been passed on to us. And even for myself, as a child, when I would be reading or listening to stories from the Ramayana or the Mahabharata, the questions which now come to my mind, I would have never, questioned that. Sita ka jo hum sunte the, okay, she, just how she's banished and all of that, we would never question that. we would always look at the story from Ram's point of view. So this is something very important that the present generations are rethinking, relooking, you know what, and even likewise for not only the folk tales, the major mythologies we have, even Mahabharata, we have so many novels now, which are looking at things from the women's point of view, women centric. You know, Draupadi's point of view. So far, even we as children would never question, those questions would never come to our mind. So it's interesting reading. And just one thing, now when you say new stories, the publishers, they are writing new. So what do you mean by new stories? These are some fresh stories or more retellings?
Yes,
Are
ma'am.
they
They
retelling?
have been
Oh.
newly published in the year from 2015 to till date. These are a
No,
new.
no, no. Not that. What I want to know, by new, you mean a retelling of the ancient tale or a new story altogether?
No, some of the writers focus on the retelling of the ancient tales.
From a
And
different perspective.
Yes.
Oh,
Some of them are actually writing it in a with the female in the focus of attention.
okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
move on to the next presentation then.
Thank you.
Ankita comes in next, I think. Ankita, good to get in touch with you after such a
Yes,
long
ma'am.
time. And
Yes,
how have
ma'am.
you
Yes,
been?
ma'am.
All
I've been
good?
really, yes, ma'am. All good, all good. How have you been? It's such
All
a pleasure
fine.
to
Yeah.
be under you. I want to
Yeah.
share with all the participants that Monica ma'am has been my teacher at university
Yeah.
level. So,
Yeah.
always sharing papers and research is special, but when you have to read a paper under your own teacher,
Even I saw the schedule, I was so happy. Good to be with you and to listen to you. Yeah, we'll begin with your presentation. Yeah,
thank you. I'll just share my PPT. Just give me 1 minute.
sure, sure.
Is my screen visible?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Okay, the title of my paper is Thappad. Thappad is a movie by Anubhav Sinha, which I happened to watch in the lockdown. I had read and heard a lot about this movie, but I didn't get the time to really to watch this. So I watched it in the lockdown, and this topic came that there's a conference which is going to happen on the issue of gender. So I thought, why not take this movie and probably try to analyze the patriarchal Indian marriage system, which is shown in this particular movie. So, the unequal power structures and the gender defined responsibilities, that is my major area of concern in this paper. These are certain parameters on which the various institutions, and in particularly, I feel, and my point of contestation is that the Indian marriage system is particularly based on this unequal power structure and the gender defined responsibilities. It is a very threatening situation in the countries like India, where females are attaining education at a rapid rate, but the real life situations they have to deal with are not changing for them at the same pace. Of course, there has been a change over generations, but this is a mammoth of civilization and the ideology of patriarchy in one generation and in one life. I don't think so. We'll be able to see that kind of an equality in terms of gender defined responsibilities in terms of marriages. So when we are in schools and colleges and universities, we are always competing to be on the top, and we are never taught this thing that you have to adjust. Koi baat nahi, ladka hai, use first aane do. You're a girl, don't come first. But when it comes to marriage, even our own mothers, let alone the in-laws and unki to baat rehti. So even our own mothers are kind of teaching us the same thing, that adjustment to karna padega. You have to somehow intermingle and you have to adjust in the new family. But those kind of things are not taught to us in schools and colleges. There we are actually competing for an equal status. But when it comes to marriage, everybody tells us to be a little docile, to mellow ourselves down and not to be that aggressive. Gender inequality, if I take the term gender inequality, it is of course a departure from parity in the representation of women and men in key dimensions of social life. It is inherently a multi-dimensional whose assessments can be made on three specific dimensions: agency, attitude, and outcome. By agency, I mean a woman's ability to take decisions for herself, like her reproduction, finances, mobility, health. Attitude about violence against women, and in particularly wives in context of my paper, the ideal number of daughters preferred relative to the ideal number of sons, and the outcome, like what is the outcome of all these attitudes towards female employment, the choice of contraception, the age at which she has to marry, the physical and the sexual violence experienced by women. Now, the most important conceptual point is that gender inequality is grounded in and is maintained by patriarchal structures and ideologies. Women is in the center of it, and there are these factors which are playing the religious factors, the legal factors, the socio-political factors, and of course the family as well. Um, if I talk about patriarchy, the dictionary meaning of patriarchy is domination by men, and Faith Millet in politics he asserts that perhaps patriarchy's greatest psychological weapon is simply its universality and longevity. It is seen that we kind of internalize, we as women also internalize it so much that we become oblivious that we are victims of this kind of a thought process. So patriarchy is a social system in which male holds primary power and predominate in roles of political leadership, moral authority, and social privilege. And in this movie also, we see that how this internalization happens with major female characters in the movie, not just the protagonist. So it's kind of it is kind of a, there is a lineage and there's a passing of patriarchy from generation to generation. The aim of the paper is to study Indian marriage system within the paradigm of gender inequality, which is propagated by patriarchy, to explore the issues of identity, isolation, marginalization, and misrepresentation of women, to study the resistance by Amrita, who is the female protagonist, against this patriarchal ideology, and to acknowledge the achievements of the movie as exposing and questioning the patriarchy driven model of Indian marriages. Amrita, the female protagonist of the movie, is an ideal Adarsh Indian Bahu as we see it. She supervises the kitchen. She escorts the husband to the car. She hands over his wallet. She packs his lunch when he is leaving for his, professional commitments. She gives up dreams of the professional dancer. She manages the health issues of her in-laws as well. I mean, the son is not aware कि उसकी what medication the mother has to be put on. So she is, in totality, we can see that she is this Adarsh Indian Bahu, which all of us are expected to be. So, and most importantly, all this is done with a docile demeanor, a smile, feminine grace, and this is done every single day. Like if we watch the movie, we see her plucking that basil, putting it in the hot water, preparing everything, the breakfast, the lunch for the husband, and she is happily doing it. It's not that somebody is imposing it upon her, as we see in other movies where the in-laws are shown in a bad light. No, Anubhav Sinha doesn't show the in-laws in a bad light. He shows a very modern girl of today, who is consciously doing all this, and she's very happily doing it. So there is this quote from Don Azlet in his book. He says that, is there life after household work? He says, even in the cartoon world, Wonder Woman in all her glory never raised children, stabilized a husband, or cleaned and managed. Wonder Woman faced only criminals, not household horrors. This is something which I have found very relative to the kind of work, to the kind of daily chores that are shown, which are being performed by Amrita in a very monotonous way. She is somewhere not happy with it. She discusses with her father that I wanted to become a professional dancer. And the only moment when she really expresses herself is when she goes to take tuitions of a neighbor's daughter, and she teaches her some dance lessons. But this is something which she has kind of kept in the very deep recesses of her psyche, and she is willingly doing everything for the husband. And this internalization of gender defined roles. So there's this party which is thrown in the honor of Vikram's success, the husband's success. So it is not even her success that she is celebrating, but she is shown as dressing up in her best red sari. She is, making all the flags for the party. She's inviting all the friends, all the family, colleagues. She's cordially arranging in the party. She's dancing with them. And then there's a kind of a professional verbal spat between Vikram. They are supposed to move. He's supposed to get a promotion, and he's moving to London on promotion. But then in the party, he gets to know that because of some professional rivalry, his promotion has been stopped. So he gets into a verbal spat with one of his colleagues, and Amrita kind of comes in between, and she tries to stop Vikram. And Vikram, in a fit of rage, slaps her. He slaps her in full view, and she is baffled. She is confused, like what to do now. And she just quietly retreats back to her room. And in her room, we see her own mother, her own mother-in-law. They are counseling her to accept it as an accidental misjudgment, that it just kind of happened. And they convince her about the importance of, these are some words which I've taken from the movie, Rishte Nibhana. And they tell her, wahi tumhara ghar hai. Even her own mother tells her ki koi baat nahi ho gaya. It was just a slap. Bas itni si baat. So these kind of things have, seeped so much. We have internalized these things so much into our psyche, and we do not even want to question them. We feel it is a part and parcel of a married life. Things happen and people move on. But breaking a marriage or filing for a divorce on the basis of just one fact is something even the husband kind of doesn't accept the fact that she is filing for a divorce on the pretext of just a slap. So what Anubhav Sinha, the director, has tried to portray is a machine of patriarchy running the class and strata of society. So it's just not the story of Amrita. It's equally the story of Netra Jaising, who is Amrita's lawyer. And just imagine she's a lawyer and she is herself a victim of marital rape. She herself has a baggage of her in-laws' name supporting in her professional growth. So her husband is seen as boasting that yes, he's very boastful of the fact that his wife is a renowned lawyer. But then he wants her to be named as Netra Jaising, and he says, "You are Netra. You are such successful lawyer because you are a Jaising. You are a part of our family." So she has this baggage of her in-laws' name and fame to her professional success. Then, if you see Pinky, who is the domestic help of Amrita, she's from a different class and strata of society, and she gets beaten up every day by her husband. And then she is very happy. Okay, now if a husband of a high class society and the wife, then that means ki mere liye to it's a normal thing. So, those kind of dichotomies are very well played by the director. Her father is shown as a very supportive father in the role of a father. He's very supportive. He supports Amrita. But as a husband, again, it is being questioned in the movie that he's shown as a beautiful husband also. He prepares chai for the wife every single morning. But then, when this entire episode happens, even the mother of Amrita, she when they retreat into the room at night, she talks about it to her husband that yes, I have also given up on my dream of becoming a singer because I wanted to rear this family. Had I, moved ahead with my hobby and my success mission, I wouldn't have been able to rear the family. So she also feels the same thing. Then there is her sister-in-law, the would-be sister-in-law, her independence. She is an assisting a lawyer for Vignetra, and her independence is also questioned by Amrita's brother, although the brother is supporting the sister. But when it comes to his own partner, he is seen as questioning his partner's independence. Then there is this character of Shivani Fonska, who is Amrita's neighbor, and she is shown as a single mother of a 13-year-old daughter. And she's quite successful. She drives a Mercedes SUV. And we see that Vikram and Shivani, they leave for their work exactly at the same time every morning. And Vikram, in a very cynical way, looks at Shivani and talks about it to Amrita, that where is she getting all this money from? He doesn't want to accept the fact that a woman by herself can also be financially independent. So Shivani is seen from that glare, from that cynic cynical viewpoint of looking at women who are independent and who are raising their daughters in a very negative light. The conclusion which I have drawn from the movie is that the movie unreveals the structures of subordination. The emotional abuse in a marriage often passes as advice and guidance from the more powerful members, thereby silently killing the aspirations of the wife. The woman or the wife starts accepting this new imposed reality and starts blurring her actual identity. If a woman or wife questions too much, she is castigated and brutally bracketed as a homebreaker or as an ill tempered woman or as a difficult woman to live with. Gender inequality in family is internalized in the garb of love and care within the gamut of patriarchal ideology. So then, what are the major takeaways? Like, what kind of a shift is required if we want to, we see in India that that marriages are falling apart like rice handles. Why this is happening? Because women are getting more and more educated, liberated, and they are questioning their rights. So, what are the major takeaways? We can say that, or we can conclude, or come to kind of a gist that societal perceptions regarding the sacrifice expected from women have to change. For the change in perception, men have to shed their urge to control and dominate. Both men and women have to break away from the traditional mold of their upbringing and move ahead without fear of societal alienation and retribution. This movie is particularly very positive as far as the end is concerned because we see that the husband is remorseful and he consciously accepts his mistake and promises his former wife. The divorce petition, they get a divorce and Amrita is pregnant, but she says, no, I want, because of my self-respect, happen. So she is not seen as compromising on her self-respect, as we see in major movies, especially in Bollywood. But and the husband, he accepts that he was at fault, and he says that I will improve myself. Bring you back. So marriage is a kind of a holy companionship which should be based on mutual respect and equal partnership. It must be seen in light of a complementary relationship, stabilizing on equally shared responsibilities and bilateral cooperation. These are the name of the books and the various articles, major articles, which I have used to dwell my idea in the paper. And that's it. And I would also love to take suggestions and finalize my paper before publication. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Congratulations, Ankita. It was a pleasure listening to you for two reasons. First, we have a special bonding,
Yes,
and then to look at young women so aware of their surroundings, so aware of what is happening. Your paper takes on the argument of the previous paper further. How these norms of a patriarchal society, we see they are so deeply ingrained but we just don't question them. As in the movie it comes across, वो कहते हैं क्या एक थप्पड़ ही तो मारा है. We don't question such things, and I'll be honest about it. I saw this movie again during the lockdown, but see, we say we are the so-called educated class, all of that, yeah. But my husband was not at all interested in watching this movie. Rather, they would just brush it aside. Oh, ye kya hai? Ye aise hi hai. So men still, even in we do not say कि ये वो उसकी maid का husband मार रहा है, not that he's hitting me or something. This is one thing that the society is not just questioning. It is taken as a given fact कि हाँ, there's no big deal about it if he's angry or he's disturbed or he's not he's stressed out, so he can have it. So but then again, we need to relook at all these things. We as the and especially you people, the younger generation, you need to take these things up. We don't have to fight with the other this thing, but then what we have to do, we have to make the other gender also, the other sex also aware of it, what women also feel, how women also what are the feelings, what are the desires, or what women also want to have in this new world. So very important thing. And this movie, it's a very subtle indictment, I would say, of the patriarchal society, norms of a patriarchal society, which we definitely need to relook at. But of course, I would not want any of the women here, to be taking up arms against men or something like that. It is a society where both the sexes are equally important. We do not have to be in confrontation, right? But what we have to, of course, a compromise, but not a compromise of the type that, we have been telling, or we have been told as young girls, but where there is mutual respect. It's not to demean the other, or to enter into a confrontation or a conflict, but a peaceful coexistence. I would say we need a peaceful coexistence. And yes, you young girls are aware, and you would train now the men with you, your boys, your sons, and I hope we'll move on to a better system. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you,
So
ma'am.
we move on to the next presentation. Yeah. Which one is that? Is Jayata Nag. Jayata Nag is there. Shubhra, is she there? Jayata Nag is the next presenter.
Yes, ma'am. I'm just looking.
Yeah, just check.
No, ma'am. We can move on to the next presenter.
Next is not there. Okay. Then next is Debarata Sardar. Okay. So we begin with his presentation. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, I am there.
Yeah, I can see you. Yeah.
Okay. So am I visible and audible?
You are audible, but we can just see your mobile number, not you.
Not me.
Yeah. Your mobile number, I think that's some board we can see, or what is it? Some banner we can see.
No, it should not have happened. Okay. Okay, whatever be the case, since time is fleeting away, let me start my presentation.
You should start your presentation.
Okay. Yes. Yes, ma'am. The appearance is not that much significant.
Yeah.
I think.
But I was able to see you in the previous presentation. It's okay. You begin with your presentation. Begin,
Yes,
please.
yes. Okay. So before I start my presentation, I would like to thank the chairperson, ma'am, and also the organizers for giving me this opportunity to share my ideas on this global platform. So let me start my presentation.
Yeah.
The title of my paper is Understanding Boredom as a Gendered Phenomenon in the Writings of Shashi Deshpande. So in the post-Kantian era, when one's ontological status is shaped by the philosophical imperative of realizing the purpose of the person's existence, boredom as a cultural phenomenon works as a constant determinant and a modifier of human behavior. Okay, gender consciousness in a male-dominated society so trickles down the generations and forms the significant section of the collective unconscious. So therefore, boredom becomes a cognitive mediator between people and the cultural space that they inhabit. And due to its intricate negotiation with human psyche, it becomes so significant in the way a person relates to the atmosphere. Okay. See, ma'am, I have written actually so many things, but I suppose I suppose this is not possible for me to present the entire paper here, given the time constraint. So as you have
You make your important points. Give us your argument. listen to me. Just put across your argument, what your thesis is, what are you trying to, what idea, main idea that you are trying to put across.
Yes, ma'am. That's what I
Yeah,
actually want to
please.
do. Okay. Okay. So, so the research questions that I would like to explore through this presentation is that why does boredom affect the female characters of Shashi Deshpande, okay, more than her male characters? Are Shashi Deshpande's male characters incapable or of being bored? How does boredom construct the sexuality of women and contributes to their phenomenological perception of the self and surroundings? So these are the questions that I have tried to explore through my research paper. Okay. Uh, uh, okay. So the first novel of Shashi Deshpande that I have tried to explain from these perspectives is The Dark Holds No Terrors, which was published in the year 1980. Right. In this paper, what happens? The entire narrative is a critical elaboration on the relation between human existential crisis and affectivity. Okay, boringness is not merely a human feeling in this novel, but rather is a constant cultural reality. Deshpande does not simply present few bored characters, but creates a cultural space where her characters develop a bond with boringness. Okay, the way the characters exist, interact with each other, and experience their everydayness reflects this interconnectivity. Okay, the novel actually begins with a particular reference to uh, the appearance of a specific rickshaw puller. Okay, and see, this context is extremely significant because nowhere else in the novel does this rickshaw puller appear once again. But still his particular means enactment of his being is very significant. I would like to quote this sentence from the novel. So the driver, bored now, had got out of his seat and was yawning. And he was yawning. See, this act of yawning is extremely significant from the perspective of the philosophy of boredom, because according to according to um, according to Gardiner and Heladin, in their book Boredom Studies Reader, we find uh, so we find that this sense of boredom arises from someone's idea of getting stuck to somewhere. And most interestingly, this idea of getting stuck to somewhere or being subjected to some situation does not necessarily call for some unwelcome situation, some uncomfortable situation, but rather it can be uh, a very means happy situation as well. And with reference to this, I would like to extend my argument that in that particular novel, okay, so in that particular novel, the protagonist Saru, she constantly feels the pain of getting subjected to her everyday experience. Okay, so but my question is that why does Saru get affected by boredom than anyone else in the novel? Okay, in my view, it is because of the gendered nature of boredom. since boredom emerges from the interaction between the self and the environment, it should have been a genderless phenomenon. But far from being that, the perception of boredom affects her male and female characters differently. In this novel, two significant female characters are there, Saru and her mother. Okay, both of them exhibit several cognates of boredom. So they fight with each other because of their gender, and they get bored basically because of their fight. So their gender economy is the common factor. So their gender economy is the common factor in their fight and boredom. Okay, Alison Pease, in her book Modernism, Feminism, and the Culture of Boredom, notices this gendered aspect of boredom, and she says, I quote, the inability of women to exert their agency is primarily responsible for their boredom. And in this context, my argument is that in the study of feminist culture, this question of agency is extremely significant. This question of agency, which is entirely denied to the women, is at the root of the boringness of these female characters in the novel of Shashi Deshpande, because the argument with which I started my presentation, it was a feeling of getting stuck, and this perception of getting stuck or being subjected to some situation from where the person wants to get rid. So these two things means the lack of agency for women and their wish to get rid of their experience of being subjected, from their perception of being subjected, are actually antithetical to each other, and therefore this lack of agency actually causes the boringness for women. Okay, another argument that I have tried to elaborate in this presentation, that is Saru's mother is a patriarchal woman. She is a patriarchal woman because of her way of bringing. She previously internalized this ethos of patriarchy to such a degree that she herself became an extension of patriarchal viewpoints, right? So we find in this novel that her mother, means Saru's mother, she constantly chastises Saru for her black complexion and for her being as a woman. Okay, so what happens finally is that because of all this kind of chastise and reprimand from her mother, Saru's personality becomes a fragmented one. She feels a kind of lacking within her very being, and interestingly enough, this sense of lacking, this sense of an inner hollowness is actually etymologically associated with the word bore, B-O-R-E, bore. Okay, because etymologically the word bore suggests the act of piercing. So, so if we pay attention to the etymological significance of the word bore, it actually means that the person has been pierced with something. And what happens in this novel, we find that Saru feels the lacking of that inner sense of vitality. Okay, so as if her inner vitality has been scooped out, and this painful perception on part of Saru actually springs from the way her mother used to deal with her. Throughout her childhood, she has been repeatedly reminded of her dark complexion, that she is a girl, and she is not a boy like her brother, who can help the family in the future days. So all these things together create a kind of hollowness, a perception of her inner emptiness. And as I have already pointed out, that in the philosophy of boredom, this inner sensation of hollowness, of emptiness is extremely significant. And a person suffers from boredom or feels a sense of boringness because of the sensation of inner hollowness. Okay, another aspect of these perspectives is actually associated with the idea of time, which Henry Bergson has elaborated as the term means Duree, D-U-R-E-E, which translates as duration in English. And we all know that for Bergson, this clock time or scientific time is less significant than the psychological concept of time. And I would like to relate this concept of psychological time with boringness or boredom through an argument raised by Martin Heidegger. See, Martin Heidegger is telling that a person who is in the same, in the perception of boringness, for him time seems immobile. For the person, time seems immobile. So this temporal immobility. So this temporal immobility is extremely significant for Shashi Deshpande's another character from her another novel, that is That Silence. Okay, in that particular novel, the protagonist Joya, for her time is not
Sorry,
a phenomenon.
Devabaraj,
Yes.
could you please come to the conclusion? Actually, our all international delegates are waiting also. Thank you.
Yes, I understand, ma'am. Just give me 2 minutes. Okay. So from that perspective, we find that in this particular novel, That Long Silence, the protagonist Saru, she fails to make sense of this division between present, past, and future. Okay, for her, this tripartite sense of time trickles down to a single set of psychological perception. And I argue that this happens with Saru simply because for her time seems immobile. She has been stuck to this spatial and temporal immobility. So these are the things, and there were a number of other arguments which I actually elaborated in this paper, but for the time constraint, I'm so sorry that I could not present all these things. So I would like to stop here. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you everyone for giving me this scope. Okay, thank you, ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Devavrat. Nice presentation. So you made the point that because women are denied the agency, one, then the patriarchal norms are so deeply entrenched, ingrained in their minds, that is what leads to boredom on their part, right? So I would just want to know from you as a man, so if women were given the agency, or the social norms were a little more flexible, not so rigid about gender roles, would women not have faced the boredom? Or is it because of this that men do not face boredom? Or are you sure men never face boredom? Is it not more of a psychological issue?
I mean, see, no, yes, ma'am, definitely. But, ma'am, I have never claimed that men don't feel boredom.
Okay, so what are the reasons for men feeling boredom?
Yes, ma'am, that the fact is that I wanted to elaborate the thing that, since boredom arises from the interaction between a person and the cultural ambience that the person inhabits. So from that perspective, gender should, boredom should have been a genderless phenomenon. But in our everyday life, in our everyday experience, we find that certain things are there which additionally concern women. It's not that only women are the bored characters.
Okay. Thank you. We get your point. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we get your point. Thank you. And then we move on to the next participant. Who's the next participant?
Yes.
That is Asha J. Dr. Asha J. Is she there?
Yes, ma'am. I think she was
Is there? Okay. We could begin with her presentation then. Yeah, Dr. Asha.
I cannot see her. Earlier she was here.
You've checked the participants? Check the list of the participants?
Yes, ma'am. That's what I did.
Is not there?
She is no longer there. Yes, ma'am.
So then shall we end the session?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much to the organizers for having me, and I see so many familiar faces. Many of my students, Shubhra is there, Pinaki and Ankita, of course. And to listen to the other people also, it was a wonderful experience. A nice theme. I must congratulate the organizers for taking up this theme. A very well thought about theme, and something, an issue or a thing that we really need to look at. We really need to rethink, rather than just blindly following what has been told to us, what is being given to us. But
Excuse me. One participant has left. Atif Sheikh.
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Yes, ma'am. Monica ma'am. Dr. Monica ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he's from some other session?
Yes.
Okay, we'll request him then to quickly make his presentation. Yeah? Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Shall I start?
Yeah, sure, you may.
I will share the screen first.
Yeah.
Is it visible to everybody?
Yes, it is. It is.
A very cheerful good evening to one and all. I want to personally thank Dr. Roshan Morve and Dr. R.S. Silvest for giving me this opportunity to present the paper. I feel honored and blessed to present my paper in front of such scholarly people who are in fact twice or thrice my age though. Without further delay, let me get my presentation. We live in a society that is divided and united at the same time, and no wonder it be. We are all the same, but differ in our thoughts, ideas, visuals, observation, and so on. I will talk about equality and equity and the perspective that I have regarding the both. So let's get started. First slide is about equality and equity. We'll get the basic definitions. Equality, it is about ensuring that every individual has an equal opportunity to make the most of their lives and talent, while equity is the quality of being fair and impartial. Let's move on. Let's clear what the difference is, okay? As you can see in the image 1, when everyone is given equality with same bicycle, the child can't ride it because it's too big for him. The man that is too tall can't ride it again, and the woman that is paralyzed, she can't ride it again. But when the equity is provided and it is given to everyone, we can see the result that everyone is riding the bicycle. In the second image, we can see the difference when everyone is given the same box. The child that is short in height can't see, but when the equity is given, he can. And in the third image as well. So, I will be talking about 3 questions, and I will focusing my entire presentation on the same. My first question is, are feminist and studies and gender studies alike? Okay, now let's get to feminism and gender studies. Feminism is about gender equality, yet people think only women can be a feminist. This is very broad thing that we need to understand. When we talk about similarities between feminism and gender studies, it's like gender studies, let's consider gender studies as a globe, and feminism is a continent in that thing. Feminism focuses on only one thing, while gender studies is the entire thing of it. In the broad perspective, we can see gender studies, while in a particular one we can see feminism. And while I was coming here, there was dihydrogen leak in my house, but you may think that I am not fine, but I am very fine. Now you will think what dihydrogen oxide is. It's nothing but water. The same way, feminism is nothing but gender studies. You can see in the next image, the feminism, no thanks, I prefer gender equality. And the same time, water, no thanks, I prefer H2, that is dihydrogen oxide. Okay, now let me get to the difference between feminism and gender equality. The basic definition that we all know, feminism is the advocacy of women's rights on the grounds of equality of the sexes. Whereas gender equality is the state in which access to rights or opportunities is unaffected by gender. Feminism is mainly concerned with the rights of women. We all know that, okay? While gender equality is concerned with the rights of everyone, irrespective of the gender. No matter you are trans, no matter you are gay, it doesn't care about that. It's about equality for everyone. The real equality and the true equality. Now, what is this? When we live in a society where we have so many genderism now, like we have seen in the past years, like gay marriages have been allowed in every country. And then there are feminist people, those who think that we are doing the right thing by supporting feminism and women empowerment, but they don't know what they're doing. They're actually contributing to gender equality. Okay, so there are a group of people, those who think in the broader perspective, and they think about every gender. When we talk about women, it is not like that only women needs equality and the rights of women are there. At the same time, there are men, those who need equal justice and equity and equality on different grounds. We'll talk about that later. Now, my second question, is equality enough for women? In our society, there are so many things going on why that we need equality for women. But at the same time, equity is more preferable to the woman at that time. And I will elaborate now, okay? Now, the difficulties faced now in the present world, when we talk about equality for women, what are the difficulties faced by them and not only women, by men and others also. Okay, the biggest one being in the entertainment industry today. Now let me get to you this. The entertainment industry today, it is, people just marginalize it. They don't talk about it. They don't discuss about it. They're like, entertainment industry, it billions and billions of dollars. So they don't need to get the attention and they don't need justice. We will talk about that in the later. On social media also, women are criticized. They are discriminated. Various viral posts, we all know everything about that. In daily life, everything about that also. And religious discriminations, as we all have. In the 3 days, we have seen everything about that. Now, the entertainment industry, my main focus point will be on the entertainment industry and how it has revolutionized feminism, digital feminism, and gender equality. Now, according to PricewaterhouseCoopers, the US industry is expected to reach more than $652 billion by 2023. Now, $652 billion is not a quite short amount. We all know that. The US media and entertainment industry is the largest in the world. There was recent news that global entertainment industry surpasses 101 billion for the first time in the history, with earnings reaching 101 billion in 2019. Now, let me get to you this. During this pandemic, we all have been connected to socially. And while connecting to socially, we are connected through the internet. And the internet companies that are sponsoring us all the videos, the OTT platform, Netflix, Amazon Prime, and all that, they are making billion and trillions of dollars a year. Last year, data surpassed oil in its value. Now, can you believe it that oil, the most valuable aspect, the asset on the earth that most of the countries like Saudi Arabia are having, that can be surpassed by industry. That is nothing. That's just 2 or 3 industries that are Facebook, Google, Instagram, and whatsoever. So we will all talk about that. Let's get started. There are some commercial hits like the Lion King and Avengers Endgame that released like past year and this year. Ticket sales in the US and Canada slump over 4 to 11.4 billion%. Now, this rise, we can just see how it has gone up during this pandemic. Okay, entertainment industry never shuts down. We all know that. With all the singers, you can also see on YouTube every day trending new songs, new albums are coming, people are purchasing it, and the thing goes on. This is multi-billion-dollar industry and keeps growing. But what point I want to make is that they never grow morally. Even back in 90s when women were discriminated in the film industries and all that, it is still today. There are cases of pay gap between male and female co-stars. Those who display the same skills on the set, but still are paid differently, and also discrimination between male and female employees. So we'll get to that. And this entertainment industry, as I already told you, it is not talked about and all that. So also, there are some films that objectify women. Now we have seen, when we all see movies, we see that women are objectified, but we skip that part. We just change the channel, or we just mute, or just switch off the television. Why is this? Why can't we just get up and stand up and say that this is discriminating women? He is harassing. This is wrong. And talking about that, in the recent years, there have been many movies that also empower the women. But someone needs to flip the coin. And right now I'm going to, because everything, we can't just see the positive side and live the life like that. Okay. We need to get to the negative side and see what are different aspects. So let's just get to that. So what happens here? What happens in the entertainment industry today? You get the first thing, that is there's pay gap difference. Okay, we all know that. And due to this, many actresses, many actors, and all the things related to them, they are creating social media movements. They are providing digital feminism here. Okay, now this is interesting. People, they think feminism and digital feminism, there is no need to discriminate them. There is no need to make difference between them. But you will see in my later slides, you will get the idea why there is need to divide feminism and digital feminism. There are 2 different aspects, and I will get to that. And what should be there? Okay, now this is my question to you. As you will see all of my presentation at the end, I will ask you, what would you prefer as a woman, as a man, as a father, as a daughter, as a son? Equality or equity? And I will give my personal opinion on that also. So let's go ahead. Let's take a look at what seems to be the positive side of the coin. A coin can have positive or negative side, but it's just metaphor. So let's see. And also during this, I will answer my third and last question. That is role of women in different industries, culture, and life. Okay. The first thing, Ariana Grande, I think everybody knows them, and those who don't know, she is having 198 million followers on Instagram. You know, she is second most followed person in the world, in the whole world. You know, so Ariana Grande, she's multi-time platinum albums and everything. You know, she has created social movements. You know, like she released a single.
Dr. Atif, could I please intervene? Right?
Yes.
We are all well aware with the factual position, with what is happening. So I would like to take, I would like to, or all of us would like to listen on your take on it. What would be the way forward? How things could be, what your idea is. We know fact, all the facts we know.
I will
Factual position.
I will show you both the things. What
Yeah.
I think should be preferred and what people are thinking should be preferred. You know, in my next slides, you will see that.
Yeah. So we could, appreciate if you just focus on what your argument, what your judgment or your possible solution to this problem is. How we can reach at equity, right? We know what is happening and what the facts are.
Ma'am, let me continue. While I am saying this, I am also telling the people that sitting at home, ideally doing nothing, is better than doing something. You know, digital feminism is a very, very big thing, but we don't understand that. And by giving all these examples, I will be elaborating my perspective about what I think. So please give me the time. Okay? Can I continue?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Ariana Grande, we all know that. I will just move on fast and quickly. Okay. So the catch line was, you believe God is a woman. So why did she say that God is a woman? You know, God cannot have a gender. In different religions, they might have, but as a scientific way, if we see it, why God needed gender, we don't know that. Okay. Also, Ariana Grande did another song that was on SNL back in 2016. That this is not a feminist song. That was indeed a feminist song, but the title was taken deliberately so people could come and get connected, and it trended on Twitter, that hashtag feminist song by Ariana Grande, and hence the movement started. Beyonce shows the girl power. You know, she has various power anthems. Flawless, Who Run the World, For Me are some of those. Also, when I talk about this, I want to make clear, during political situations, we step back. When it comes to politics, everyone steps back. But we need to step forward and see what is good and what is wrong. We need to tell them that this is right and this is wrong. When they take out new policies, we are the one who has to tell them. And how our voices can be heard? Today, social media is the biggest platform. If we tweet something and if it gets a million retweets, we are someone nothing like legend. We are the most popular person right now because we started the tweet and it is reaching millions of people, and hence we create some movement. So let's move ahead. Emma Watson, she is a very famous actress. She became feminist and she has to what not things, everything. And there was this is what a feminist looks like campaign where every actor wore a t-shirt. Even President Obama was seen. And now this is the main thing, feminism and man hating. Why people think that feminism is only for females? Like if I have feminism, it's feminism, female, women rights, and that's the end. It is not talking about men. It is not like that a man can be a feminist because we are the ones in the society. It's each and everyone's job to get in the society and see what is wrong, what is right, and need to tell the people. Emma Watson broke silence about that, and she wrote, fighting for women's rights has too often become synonymous with man-hating, and this has to stop. John Legend said that all men should be feminists. If men care about women's rights, this is important. The world will be a better place. Ellen DeGeneres, we all know she's LGBTQ hero. She was a lesbian, but she got Presidential Medal of Honor. Now, why she got that? She started movements. She started a comedy show. While doing the comedy show, she got so many people following her, and she got so many, movements started that gave rights to LGBTQ. In USA, it was first in USA that President Obama passed the bill that gay marriages are allowed and it is legal. It was Ellen DeGeneres who was the pioneer of it, we can say. Okay, and she also won the People's Choice Award. She has won 10 People's Choice Awards. Let's get to the other side. We see the positive. Now let's get to the negative side. Women being paid less. Now, Natalie Portman, she won Oscar for the Best Actress of the Year. In the movie No String Attached, she got 3 times less than her male co-star. She got paid. So what is this? If we as people in the society don't raise our voice, then who will? We have to do that. These are other examples who did. You can go through that later. Now Taylor Swift, now we have seen the movie industry. Now let's get to the music industry. In the music industry, Taylor Swift, she says, if until you are 35, that is the only golden time for you to make fame, money, and respect in this industry. After you are 35, you can't. She defines her success as that she was 32 years old, right? She is 32 years old right now, and she says she has only few years left. Why she thinks that? And also the main thing, my main focus, she says that I want the people are tolerating my success. This is something that women should raise their voice on. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton campaign. Donald Trump said to Hillary Clinton, such a nasty woman. And on the next day, Janet Jackson's 1986, okay, it was 1986, her song Nasty hit Spotify, and the plays increased by 25%. The line says, nasty boys don't mean a thing, but nasty women, on the other hand, gets the shit done. On literary fund, the country with most literacy rate was San Mario, that is 100% literacy rate, and the country with the least was Afghanistan, 24.2% literacy rate. This thing can be overcome. We can launch social campaign, force WHO or UN. We can force UN to go to these places and provide them with institutions, can't we? And hence we can provide them equality or equity. We can provide them with equity, what other world is having, or we can provide them with equity, what they need right now. Okay. During pandemic, Mexico recorded the most cases of domestic violence, and before the pandemic, there were protests. But due to pandemic, the voices went unheard until social media came to the rescue.
Dr. Atif, I'm really sorry. You will have to come to conclusion as other presenters are waiting in the queue.
I'm coming to the conclusion, ma'am. Only 2 or 3 slides are left. Okay.
Please hurry up.
Yes, but due to pandemic, voices went unheard until social media came to rescue. People took to the social media platform, and hence digital feminism was seen. Now you can see why there is feminism and online digital feminism. So now we can at least say that equality is not enough for women. There are times when equity is preferable and is needed. Now, some words of wisdom, Helen Clark said, any serious shift towards more sustainable society has to include gender equality. And G.D. Anderson said, feminism isn't about making women strong. Women are already strong. It's about changing the way the world perceives that strength. We talk about women's rights, but women already have rights. All we need to say is that the rights are given in the right way. Either they are given with equality or they are given with equity. And all I want to say is that we fight for a lot of things, but it is important that we know what we are fighting for. Is it equality or equity? If we are fighting for equality, will it be beneficial to everyone? Is it doing justice to everyone? Or we are fighting with equity? If we are fighting for equity, it will do justice to the society in many, many ways. There are physically challenged people for whom equality will do nothing, and still we'll fight for women equality, women rights. This is not done. When I will say that when someone asks me, what will you prefer, equality or equity? I will say equity. Okay. So I think I made my point, and that's all from my side. And now I will ask the audience that what do you think? What do you think? Is it equality? Okay, that's all from my side.
Thank you, Dr. Atif.
That's
Yeah. A good conclusion to the earlier papers, I would say that we have to move towards not just rights for women, but towards equity and equality, right? So thank you so much. So Shubhra, do we have some more presenters for the session?
No, ma'am. That's all from yours.
Okay, thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here. Nice listening to all of you. Thank you so much. All the best. Best wishes, and all of you, please take care of yourselves and your families and stay safe in this in these troubled times. Thank you so much.